Start it.
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order and ask everyone to stand for the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome and good evening, everybody. First order of business is citizen comments. So if anybody would like to address the board, this first citizen comments is things that are on our agenda. You have 3 minutes and you may step to the podium. Any citizen comments? Okay, moving right along. Celebrations. Adam.
All right, good evening, everyone. I'll start with a couple stories that are posted to the website. The first one is celebrating the success of our esports team in their first year as a varsity sport. The team qualified for the playoffs in 4 different games, although I'm of the opinion we really need to get a Madden football team going, but that was still really impressive, those 4 events, considering this is their first official season as a varsity sport. So I have some pictures on there, as well as the teams throughout the state that qualified for the playoffs in each of the different games. And a special thanks to Teresa Billy and James Doyne, who's with us this evening, for a different topic on their fine job of coaching. Still have 1 team left making a run in the playoffs, and can keep you updated on that. The second is a summary of our fall facility enhancements. These included some projects that took quite a while to complete, most notably our high school egress window project was about 2 years in the making, between designs and bids, and then waiting, I think, about 8 months for the windows to come in, and then finally getting that finished up before it got really cold out. So I appreciate everyone's patience with that, and the always excellent job that Brandon Weigartz did with leading that initiative. A number of aesthetic upgrades throughout the performance gym, the Hornet's Nest at the high school. Those include a new sound system, scoreboards, wall pads, and some new graphics, and a lot of really positive comments on that. I was there for the home basketball opener last Friday, and the place looks really sharp, and we also were able to get most of that stuff in place before the end of volleyball season this year. The Explorer Gym also got new wall pads, kind of finished off that facelift for that facility. It was painted this summer, and as you know, in the year prior, it had a air conditioning system put in for the first time ever, and a new heating unit. Here in the middle school, we had a new single-user bathroom facility that was put in place, something that our staff had asked for a number of years, and we were able to get that finished this fall. And then not pictured on the website is the maintenance barn right outside of the parking lot that was recently painted, and looks pretty sharp compared to how it looked prior to that. A few other notes that are not on the website. First, I'd like to thank the Williamston Schools Foundation for their Pancakes with Santa event. That is a big fundraiser for them, which of course in turn turns back to supporting our programming here at the schools, but a great event for the hundreds of students who showed up to be a part of that. It was very well organized, and a lot of our staff contributed greatly to that event. I'd also like to thank different members of the school, different organizations that are part of the school district for their participation in the Williamston Light Parade on Saturday evening, which was also an outstanding event put on by the Chamber of Commerce. And we got really lucky with the weather. It was the one night this weekend that was perfect for that parade. 24 hours before or after would have been a problem. So we had floats representing the transportation department, the Be Nice clubs, the boys and girls varsity basketball teams, and the Elf the Musical cast. And I hope I'm not missing anybody, but I think that's everyone. Elf the Musical is also taking place this weekend with performances on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We also had a really successful winter choir concert last week with the band winter concert coming up, I believe, next week. And not pictured yet, although I will get stories up on the website soon. Our elementary and middle school first robotics teams competed on Saturday. We're waiting to see the scores, how they did, but of course that's not really the point. It's the learning and the experience that those students get to experience as part of our K-12 STEAM initiative. And so very thankful to Sean Ferguson and Jay Dittman for their leadership and coaching of those two teams. That is, so those are celebrations for this evening. Pending your questions.
I'd like to add one other celebration. So I know, we all have dreams and aspirations when we're younger, and sometimes they come true right away, and sometimes you have to wait a little bit. So we do have some staff members who always, had dreams of being on stage and having an acting career, and it's my understanding that we do have a couple members, I think one in the audience, and our own esteemed Dr. Spina, who will be on stage as part of the ALF production, and they are so excited about that, they just can't wait. So
A very, very, very minor role.
that is not what I have heard.
Very
I've heard
minor.
you steal the show.
I have to speak like 5 words.
And I hear you do it with such grace and elegance that
I'll find out on Friday.
people need to flock. I've also heard that about the gentleman that's hiding behind our podium. So buy your tickets, it's supposed to be fabulous. Also, I do need to back up. Amanda is not here, so Deb, would you be acting secretary today, please? Thank you. All right, moving on. Educational update. I believe Mr. Paulson.
This, or do you got it up there?
That should be working.
Shit, awesome, thank you. Good to see everybody again. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm all right.
All right.
We just finished up a busy fall and right into winter. We actually have some games going on over at the school right now, and a busy week this week. I think everybody is competing this week, so it's a fun time. It makes the winter go fast. But
Yeah.
I'll get into my fall recap for everybody.
Okay.
Cross country, we had 11 girls out this year. We finished 3rd in the conference, and we also had 3 state qualifiers from the regional run. So we built upon last year from our team going to state. It was just a tough region this year, but we had 3 good qualifiers, and that was a good finish for our cross country girls. Boys cross country, 9 boys out this year, 4th place in conference. Have a young team. I had a lot of success, a lot of personal records this year, and looking to build upon that and hopefully get some kids qualified next season after regionals. Girls golf, great season for the girls. We had 9 girls out. We finished second in conference to a tough Hazlet team, but we were regional champs for our region, which qualifies us as a team for state, and then we placed second in the state finals at the Meadows at GDSU. Great course. Tough couple days. Weather was windy, cold, rainy, and they might have experienced a little snow, but they prevailed. It was a great event for Coach Kent, and the girls had a great couple days. A lot of fortitude going forward with that weather, so it was fun to see. Boys tennis, we had 35 boys out this year. We were conference and regional champions, which qualified us for state. We did not have any boys advance to second day, but I believe we had at least 3 teams move on from the first round. So it was a great season for the boys. A lot of kids out. Coach Bowen, it was his first year, is excited for the group. Soccer, we had 37 boys out. We finished 3rd in conference. We also won our district, which we hosted. It was a great feat for the team. Lost in the regional final. We were tied, had a handball in the box, and with about 2 minutes left, and they scored the penalty kick. So it was a tough way to lose, but it was a great regional. Had some really good success. It was a fun year for the soccer team. Volleyball, we had 37 girls out, so we had 3 teams, and we finished 4th in conference. Very tough conference, but we won our district against. Had to beat Hazlet and Lansing Catholic, both teams very good. Hazlet beat us twice during the year in straight sets, and then in the district final we ended up beating them in straight sets, so that was a great Great turnaround, great district for Coach Conklin and the girls. Traveled to South Christian and lost to a very tough Catholic Central team. Football, we had 60 kids out. We had a third place finish in conference. We traveled to Notre Dame Prep and played in the first round of the playoffs. They were very tough, very solid team. They ended up going to play Corunna, who was in the state finals, and they played them tough. So we got a tough draw. Our district had 3 of the 4 teams were in the top 7 in our Division 5. So it was a tough district, tough draw, but great season. And obviously we continue the success in our football program. Swim and dive, we had 15 girls out this year. Third place finish in conference. That includes a tie in our conference final meet. We did not have anybody move on for regions, and we did not have any divers this year, so that took away a few points. But again, another strong showing with 15 girls out and a lot of underclassmen. Sideline cheer, we had 10 girls out this year, and it was actually quite a good group with a lot of, I thought we brought a lot of new things with the new coach. Had a lot more things like this where we brought out band, brought out some kids in the crowd. It was a very different atmosphere for the sideline cheer, so we're happy that that program's moving forward. Esports, as Dr. Spina mentioned earlier, our first year with it being a varsity sport. Besides the great looking room, we had 14 kids out, and 4 of those teams made playoffs. It's just something that we can absolutely build on looking forward into the spring season. The winter sports that we have going on, boys swim and dive has 14 kids out. Boys basketball has 36. Girls basketball has 18. Wrestling has 28. Competitive cheer has 8 girls out at this time, and will participate for the first time in 2 years, competing in events. And our co-op gymnastics has 6 girls participating. We are in a co-op with hockey, but none of our kids made the very competitive hockey team. We're co-op with about 7 other teams, and it's a very tough thing to make a hockey team in our co-op. Our planned athletic events for this winter so far, we have our Be Nice basketball game versus Haslam on the 15th. The winter sports will be involved at the elementaries and at the middle school during that day, getting out there and interacting with the kids. And then we have a Coaches versus Cancer game sponsored by a local business on January 3rd to help support a very good cause with that. I believe that's all I have. Is there any questions?
You know, I know we spend a lot of time talking about the wins of our varsity teams. How did our JV or freshman teams do?
So we had football. I believe we had 3 losses. Freshmen in volleyball and JV volleyball were strong programs. They played a lot of tournaments and had varying success. Our sub-varsity programs are very strong. Obviously, that's why we have very strong varsity programs. Again, a lot of those more or less we look for, as our coaches teach and as we try to promote, is more or less the building rather than what actually is the outcome, because we don't have a junior varsity regional to compete in.
Yeah.
Though they are very important, we build more upon the skills and how many kids we can keep returning. And that's what our focus is when it comes to the sub-varsity sports, is that they enjoy, they come back out next year, and then the serious ones continue to get better and build in the off-season.
Well, and it builds for your varsity teams too, so.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Enjoy your night.
Thank you, you too. Superintendent's update.
Upcoming meetings on the 8th of January is the board's organizational meeting, and then on January 29th is the board goal workshop facilitated by MASB. So a lot of planning, organizing for the board taking place next month. In your packet, I put a preview of the Google spreadsheet that will be used at the high school to assist parents, students, and staff with plotting out the path to graduation and the different courses that can be utilized to meet the MMC requirements. These have been completed by our counseling office team for students in grades 9 through 11. They're currently working on completing these for the seniors. And the plan is to have these be able to be shared out to all stakeholders by the end of the first semester, beginning of the second semester. So a lot of hard work going on into this, and they're ahead of schedule from where we thought they would be at this point. So thank you to the high school team and all those involved with this. Next, some updates on the Sherwood Road property. I'm going to turn that over to Sarah.
Yes, so after lots of digging and phone calls and emails with our lawyers, we have determined, I'll do the background. The Sherwood Road property was purchased via a land contract in 1999. It was then paid off with our loan, or our bond in 2005, and then that bond was refinanced in 2015. So we have the 2015 refunding. That matures in 2030. So what that means is that until 2030, we can technically sell that property. However, it can only be used to pay off the bond or to reinvest into something that is a bond-approved expense. So we can't put it into our fund balance, we can't use it to pay salaries, we can't do anything like that until after 2030. In review of like the deed and all of that, I didn't see anything that indicated that there were restrictions on the property itself agreed upon with the seller. Any restrictions would be like imposed by the county or whoever handles that piece of it. But so we can't sell it this time and take those proceeds and do anything with it for the district.
So this would be consistent with, I think, our common understanding with what could and could not be done with that property. And I know for those of you that have been on the board for a while, even thinking back to when Steve Cook was the finance director and some of the presentations he had at that period of time about the property and what it could and could not be used for, and kind of the cons of selling it, especially during that era when, if we could have sold it, we most likely would have, considering the financial circumstances the district was in. So this is consistent information with what we've thought to be the case, and appreciate Sarah going in and just double checking since questions about that property have come up recently. Moving on, just a quick update on the bond. A couple weeks ago, we had a successful kickoff meeting, really kind of plotting out the plan and the timeline moving forward into August. The first of many weekly planning meetings is scheduled for tomorrow. That will include input from DFM, our financial advisor, on different ways to utilize potential bond funds and what would be the most effective use of those in terms of benefits to taxpayers, interest rates, etc. Both of our pre-bond services letter of intent have been completed by Chrisman Company and French Associates, and the facilities assessment of our buildings, which is an important part of the entire process, will be completed on December 18th and 19th. That is it for the superintendent's report this evening, unless there's any questions I can address.
Any questions for Alan? No. All right, moving on to board committee reports. Policy.
We met last Tuesday, 28th. It was a bit of an unusual meeting. We had a handful of items we discussed ahead of time, weren't strictly policy, starting with adopting potentially the Troon policy manual, which we're going to touch on a little bit later tonight. We also discussed a potential school smartphone policy, which we're going to be looking into in further detail. Looked at the Fifely Foundation funds and migrating those away from the school's foundation. And then St. Mary's Co-op, just keeping that as the status quo for the time being. As far as policies go, we had a handful of 5,000 level policies, and these we did not get the updated policy documentation until about 30 minutes before our meeting. We didn't have time to review and go into depth, but we've included those in the board packet so you can review those, and those are going to address things that we're going to need to adopt by the end of January.
All right, so we will look forward to all of that discussion. Right now, moving into discussion items, we have two guests, Mr. Wolf and Mr. Ford, that are going to talk to us about a park trail. Welcome, gentlemen. Come on down.
Hi. I'm Earl Wolf. I'm representing the City of Williamston Parks and Recreation Commission. It's like 50 years ago, somebody built a bridge over there, the expectation of a path, and it's still a dirt path. And so here we are, and we're really happy to be moving forward. 1992, we had detailed plans. 2018, we had detailed plans, but matching funds never happened. Here we are. And we've asked Bob Ford of Lansing Architect and Planners to show us his detailed plan tips, because you are a neighbor. We have to work with all the neighbors, whether it's Eagles or the condos or whatever, to make sure that everything is transparent. So, Bob?
Thank you very much. Appreciate being here. I've been working with Williamston for a number of years, decades to be exact, and trying to bring some of these projects to bear. And one of the concepts that evolved when we were working with the DDA and some of their improvements, the kayak launch, things like that, was a loop trail around the city through all 4 quadrants. So we helped develop sort of a concept trail. And that would take you all the way around the city. And if we can get that loop constructed someday, it will receive any other trail that's coming along and connect into it from any direction, probably from the west going east, we hope, to be part of the Tri-County Trail system. Well, this is one segment of that trail. And what we're trying to do is put it together so that it connects across the river using the pedestrian bridge from Grand River Avenue, 43, all the way to Highland Street. So it's just south of the Discovery Elementary School. We also have a leg that will run up the east side and by the condos or the co-op and connect to the existing sidewalks. So with that, here's a couple slides. This kind of gives you an idea of the loop trail system that we have envisioned. It meanders throughout the city, but basically forms that loop, and Grand River going to the west would be a potential link, as would be a leg going to the north, and possibly eventually to the east. Not to forget even the south, we'll see. But that little black square indicates where this section is that we're trying to get some funding from the state and also from the county. This highlights the area where the ball field is just south of Discovery, and you can see Highland over on the left. The yellow trail connects to that. Then it meanders along the river, and it connects to what people envision as a small island. It's actually a bypass in the river, but it looks like an island, acts like an island. And although the ditch isn't very deep, we'd like to put 2 little bridges there so that you could be able to get out, and Scouts Memorial is there as well, and that should be refurbished. Then it meanders all the way to the west, and it goes through the open grassland and also through the wooded area next to the condo, eventually connecting to the pedestrian bridge, and then south along the Eagles, what is that, Eagles, what is it called?
Just the Eagles.
Just the Eagles? I thought it was
Just the Eagles.
not a fraternity, but it's an order.
Fraternal order of the Eagles.
Fraternal
Yeah,
order?
yeah.
Thank you. And they're more than happy to have this trail come along through there. There's an easement that we discovered that is just adjacent to their property, so that makes a nice link. And then there's an outlot that the city owns, gets you out to the Grand River Avenue. That leg that I talked about to the elementary school is up there on the upper right, and it shows how it connects along the fence line there. These are the blow-ups of the trail itself. It'll be 10 foot wide. It will be a asphalt path, ADA compliant throughout, and then those 2 bridges will be a little bit wider, 14 foot to give you the clear zone. The proposed parking lot is up there at the north end. We'll replace the abandoned tennis courts, so that's also part of this plan. And then there's an area that you can get out, like a fishing deck or a viewing platform, get close to the water on that south end. This is the trail I talked about linking to the school going north. We'd like to work with the co-op, and Earl has reached out to them and is starting a conversation to see if there's a way that they could also tie in some way. And if we can take a little tiny piece of their property on the corner, it might save us a little bit of extra pathway and make the turn a little bit easier. And then this is on the south side by the Eagles and how it connects up to the Grand River Avenue. So the cost estimate for this project is about 1.2 million. We'd like to apply in 2024, April 1 is the deadline, for a trust fund grant for $300,000. The county, Ingham County, through their Parks and Trail millage, which you pay, your residents here pay a portion of that, this would be getting some of your money back from that revolving fund. And we're requesting $800,000 come from them, which would suffice for the match for the trust fund. And then we have some in-kind donations that the operating engineers would be able to help us and donate by doing some of the heavy lifting with their industrial equipment as training exercises for putting in gravel, digging things out, preparing the base basically for the trail wherever it goes. So this whole venture would be hopefully started if we can get the county grant, which will be announced relatively soon. I'm attending a meeting on the 11th of December. What is that, next week? And hopefully they'll be announcing that at that time. It would be very nice to have that money at least pledged. And then apply for the grant in 24. It's about a 1-year cycle. So it'll be 25, at the latest 26, before we'd actually see something in the ground. What we need from you, we need support. So a letter of support from you would be very much appreciated. If it took the form of a resolution or a letter or something of that effect, that would be great. If we could reference the project and I guess address it to the city manager so that the city could receive that on behalf of the project, and then they could include it in their package and be able to make application to the trust fund and to any other funding sources that are out there. In fact, if the school knows of any funding for safe routes to schools or any of those types of programs that you're involved in, this might be a worthwhile project to consider joining in one way, shape, or form. I just put that out there in case something's happening that we don't know about. So, Earl, do you have any final comments?
We just feel that it's just a no-brainer to link the neighborhoods. I think the manager thinks this would be literally used by thousands. Bike riding from one neighborhood to the other, to school. What's not on that sheet in any of those costs, I talked to Bob about it, that in the future, thinking about safely to schools, I would like if there was some low bollard lighting in there for, say, a kid riding your bike from a game tonight and you live over there in that neighborhood. Something like that would just really enhance its safe use. But that's not budgeted right now, but that would be just, I think, really sweet.
Yeah.
So, but we're just going for the bare bones to get it in, because prices go through the moon, as you know.
Once the project starts, whenever that is, and hopefully 2026, how long is the estimated till completion? How long will it?
How long was the trail?
No, how long will it take to complete?
Once it gets started, it's a 1-year construction process. So basically the construction season, spring to fall.
And then how long, I guess that would be, if it's a loop, someone wanted to run the loop, how long would the loop, how long? Do
The
you know
entire
how many
loop,
miles it would be?
the entire loop, depending on which route it takes,
Yep.
because some of this is future, would be in the neighborhood of 3 miles.
Wow.
This is about a half a mile of that 3-mile loop. It could be longer depending on which streets and roads it takes, but that gives you an idea.
Any other questions?
So you're definitely not the first group that has big ideas, big plans. There was at one point, 50-something years ago, a plan to make a bridge from McCormick Street to connect to Harvey Drive as another way to get across. And you're certainly not the first group that's come to this board with an idea, albeit several years ago. We had a gentleman address the board with their own idea. Are you working collaboratively with other community members to pull ideas?
Well, it's not too complicated, it's just paving something that's almost already there.
Yeah.
So you're not adding a new amenity, you're not adding more maintenance to the city really, you're not adding some recreation facility that needs ongoing attention all the time. So and the recent survey that the city did for residents, it's got a very high, I think it was 20% response. Trails, non-motorized pathways was again way above the top of the list. There's all those other fun things you could do in parks, but that was by far and away the number one request in the survey. So we're following what people want.
No, there's definitely interest, and there's definitely ideas on what that might look like.
But this has got a path to the money now.
No, and we appreciate that, and we appreciate having the open conversation, because like you said, we are neighbors, we're so close together, and I'm sure other members of this board are also thinking of construction, and that's the busiest way that people get to school is through that roadway, and what that construction will look like and how long it is. So I appreciate the question that Mrs. Deal raised about how long that process might be. Just thinking out loud, but thank you so much for coming, we appreciate it.
Thank you, we appreciate your support.
Now, one final question. Your budget talks about specifically the creation of the pathway. What about the ongoing maintenance, and where will that come from?
Well, the city has stepped up. They have a lot of incoming expenses that they really need to do.
So they've committed to
Oh yeah,
maintaining?
they're committed to this. They see it as nothing but positive, so quality of life and all that.
Mhm.
Adam, does this play in any part or role in Safe Routes to School supports?
Well, it definitely plays into the concept of literally safe routes to
Sure,
school.
yeah.
Yes, I would say it does. It doesn't necessarily connect in with the grant application,
Okay.
but if you took the two together, which ironically would both occur around
The same time.
2026, yeah, I mean, that would definitely be a significant upgrade for children looking to
Yeah.
get to school either by biking or walking, so absolutely.
What I found interesting with Safe Routes to School, I don't know if it's changed or not, but they can fund projects that get you to the school property, but not necessarily on the property.
That's
So
correct.
this would be a candidate that could align with that in some way, shape, or form. Any funds that we can get toward this project, we would be able to expand the trail a little bit further.
We're in the process of going through the steps for approval for that grant and what that might look like.
Excellent.
Any other questions? So, so they're asking for a letter of support for this project. I don't know if this is something we need to vote on. I mean, if we're all in agreement, can we just write them a letter and get that to them? Or would you like this to move, to be voted on? I mean, that wouldn't be till January.
The board could also, direct the superintendent to write it on behalf of the board. So it becomes a letter that way too. Doesn't necessarily have to take a formal resolution unless you so choose.
So are we in agreement that this is a good idea and we're okay, all of us having this
Okay.
letter written?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Sure.
So if we will, and we've done just some history, we did write a letter, we had a presentation, I'm not sure, it was the same, did you, like, it was the same?
2018.
Yes, okay. So
Yes.
we have written this letter of support in the past. We just have, Chris, you might have been on the board, and Sarah, you might want me to that, and then the other four, this is new. So I didn't feel like we should just direct Adam to like write the letter without you hearing the presentation. So this has been something we have approved of and supported. All right, thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. Make
Thank
it
you.
go out to
Thank
you.
you.
All right, next, I'm very excited about this. We have some guests here to talk about a new class at the high school, an unmanned aircraft system,
Good evening.
which is all exciting to me, and I don't even know what any of those words really mean, but unmanned aircraft system sounds exciting.
It is exciting. So tonight we're here to seek board approval for a new high school course. The proposed course is titled Intro to Small Unmanned Aircraft Systems, which are basically drones. Kyle Sprague, our new high school science teacher, will provide the details of the SUAS class proposal.
Thanks. Good evening.
Hello.
All right, so this evening we're going to look at a proposed course. I'd like to walk through what the course description would be, some pillars that the course is built around, and then opportunities that avail students because of so. We'll walk through what the rationale is. We'll talk about what the course credit would be initially in alignment to current standards. We'll be looking at student experiences, our startup costs, any type of recurring cost year to year. So we'd like to add to the course offering guide a new course, right? It's all about flying drones, operating drones, learning the knowledge required to pass your FAA Part 107 exam, and then being able to do something with those drone bodies. So one weird, strange thing about the way commercial drones are operated right now, you can earn your commercial drone pilot certification through the FAA without ever powering on a drone. So the first pillar of our course is going to be making sure that our students can actually operate these safely, take them up and do something with them. That second component is going to be the FAA remote pilot certification, which is what's required to commercially operate a drone in the United States. Anytime you do something with a drone that you get paid or compensated for, you have to have that Part 107 license. And then the third piece is going to be something that the students will do with the payloads that the drones are carrying. Most of these drones carry cameras, so we're going to be looking at photography skills so that our students can take the drones up, acquire an image, use post-production software, and have a deliverable product for a client. So here's some pieces of the course description. So this will be a 2-semester course. The students would earn 1 credit. It is a STEAM course. There's a lot of science, technology, art, and engineering built into it. The main takeaway would be the ability to fly and operate those drones, have the knowledge to pass that remote pilot certification, and then be able to do something with the drones and do that photography. So the reason for this course is drones are emerging technology. They're rapidly expanding. They're being used in all sorts of different industries. And this is an opportunity to get our students a leg in that particular field right off the get-go. We want to offer our students an opportunity to explore this field, see some of the different uses that they can put these drones into, and then have the opportunity to earn that remote pilot certification so that if they choose to, they're ready to go out and be commercial drone operators. A lot of times people get started going up and taking pictures, like working for real estate agents and stuff like that. This course is going to be offering a math credit for students, so it's another way of, or opportunity for them to earn a math credit. And then another opportunity that this will avail is if they would like to continue their education with drones, we'll have an articulation agreement with one of the best drone schools in the state. That's Northwestern Michigan College. Initially, this course is going to be offered as a mathematics credit. We'll have some of the state mathematics standards built into the course. Along with that, it's also going to build in some standards from CT Aerospace. It is our intent, once the course is up and running, to apply for our aerospace accreditation. This is a process that I went through last fall at my current school, or former school. We started the program up in the fall, made our fall submission deadline for the CTE program, and then received our accreditation in the spring. The importance of that fall submission deadline is you get the funding for the students for that current year. Along the lines of that CTE accreditation process, we already have the commitment from the UAS program at NMC, Tony Sauerbright, to be on our aerospace advisory board. And then he's also willing to provide us with an articulation agreement for the course. Here's our course alignment to current standards. So both of these links will bring you to those standards. So the first link will bring you to the Michigan Common Mathematics Standards. There's a selection of 4 that will be built into this course. Rearranging formulas to highlight particular things, using function notation, and then using some applied geometry as well. The second link there, it opens up a little weird. It'll open up as an Excel file, but what that is the layout of the Perkins 5 CTE course competencies. So all of the things from Michigan CTE that's required for that to be an aviation course. Next, we have some different industry opportunities. So these are all images that we've taken. Sometimes we don't think about the different ways that drones are currently being used and going to be used in the future. Everything from like aerial photography, taking pictures of weddings and people, industry inspections of property. On the left, we got a picture of an inspection of some solar panels for a light above a parking lot. Agricultural uses, so people are using them to monitor their fields, scan and map out, look for nutrient deficiencies. They can go back and they can actually do aerial spraying of nutrients and seeding. And we also have uses in like search and rescue, law enforcement, and other different things. Next up, we have some different flight experiences that our students would experience. Up in the lower right-hand corner there's a picture of one of those small drones that students would operate inside the school building. So those drones have propeller guards. They're small, light enough to safely operate in an enclosed space around the students. That's how they would initially learn their stick controls. They kind of work with virtual controllers on their phones. They're a little gimmicky, they're kind of hard, but it lets our students develop really good skills in terms of operating the drone without thinking too much about how they need to operate those stick controls. Next, we have some bigger drones. They're like GPS-locked drones that the students would fly outside. On the left-hand side, that's a picture of what a flight line would look like. The students are all lined up outside. They're working in teams to operate their drones. Typically, when you're operating a drone, you've got a pilot in command. You also have multiple visual observers that are looking around, making sure there's no obstructions, and assisting that pilot in command make sure they have good situational awareness. In the middle, we got a picture of what one of those GPS drones would look like. And those are the drones that the students are actually going to be taking up and taking aerial images with. Now, because we want our students to be able to do something with these unmanned aircraft systems, we're going to be teaching them some photography backgrounds and basics as well. So photography was actually my entry point into unmanned aircraft systems. So I was looking for a different perspective to use with my pictures, and that's what kind of brought me to drones. Because it's easier to teach the students photography basics and composition on the ground, we would use some full sensor DSLR cameras to teach them the photography basics, which line up really well with the camera sensors that are on the drone in terms of like manipulate shutter speed and different features on there to take good images. Once they've acquired those images, they'll learn how to use some industry standard editing software, both Adobe Lightroom Classic and Photoshop, to do the edits in order to kick out a deliverable product for clients. Something that the students could use to build up a portfolio if they decided to launch their own business with their drones. Some different career exploration and awareness opportunities that we'll build into the course would include like presentations from different fields that drones are currently being used in. some of the presentations that I'm currently have in my course that I'm running. We've got a search and rescue coordinator that likes to come in and talk to students about how he uses drones around search and rescue in the state of Michigan. Drone operators from some different fields. In particular, we've got an engineering field in Flint, an engineering firm in Flint that has drone operators that go up and do mapping for them. Law enforcement, and then our UAS program coordinator from NMC likes to come down and show the equipment to the students and give talks as well. All right. Startup costs. Would you like me to go through these one item at a time? So we've got the setup for those small indoor drones. For a class of 28, we usually go for about 10 of those little drones. It's not uncommon for us to have to do like some motor swap outs on there, so it's nice to have a couple extra on hand. They're about $150 a drone. Like 6 larger drones from outside, they run about $1,100 per drone. I also have a 7th drone that I will be bringing with me that I received as part of a grant through the FAA in coordination with NMC. So we've got a 7th drone body as well. Hard cases for those drones, both the indoor and the outdoor, just because we know students moving drones around or any type of electronics, protecting that equipment is really important. We've got landing pads for the outdoor drones. It's important to have like a high visible spot so we know where the drones are going to come back to. One of the built-in safety features on those drones is they know the GPS home point, so if they ever disconnect from the controller, they fly home. If they have any issues where the student has gone out and they're not aware of their battery life and the drone senses that the battery life is starting to get close to that capacity of coming home, they automatically fly home to that home point. Also, those landing pads allow us to make sure we don't have like grit and particles and stuff get into our motors that we're operating. We've got 2 camera bodies and lenses for those cameras on here for the students to learn those photography basics inside and outside. Some expo discs for those cameras, which allow us to color calibrate the camera so they give a color accurate image. Spare parts for the drones, both the indoor small drones and outdoor drones. Some additional batteries for those outdoor drones. We've got 12 of those batteries. They're almost a little over $100 a piece. Some SD and micro SD cards. We need regular SD cards for the cameras that will be operating on the ground and micro SD cards for the drones. And then some multi-chargers for those drone batteries. Multi-chargers allow us to plug in more than one battery at a time. They charge all of them at the same time so we can cycle those batteries after flight. Our total startup equipment cost comes in just a little under $13,500 for equipment. The second piece of this is recurring costs. Fortunately, they're quite a bit less than our startup costs. As part of our recurring cost, we've got a Part 107 curriculum, which allows the students to have access to an online individualized course for more feedback from them and assessment pieces. That's from a company down in Florida called Unmanned Safety Institute, which is one of the few organizations in the country right now that are offering additional safety certifications and industry certifications in drones. In the future, that's a company that we could potentially work with to allow our students to earn more industry certifications. That's $1,000 per course, and it's $29 per student in terms of student materials. So if we're looking at a section of 28, we're looking at about $1,812 for that component. The Adobe software for photo editing, the district already owns enough site licenses that we don't have to worry about incurring any additional expense in that area. And then some additional flight simulators. There's a Zephyr drone simulator that allows students to run different types of commercial missions. That is $89 per device license. We would want licenses for about half of our class. So half of them would be working on one component, the other half would be flying the flight simulators. That would be another $1,246 per year. So we'd be looking at about $3,060 per year. Unfortunately, once we receive our CT accreditation, we should be able to get enough funds that would cover all of our recurring costs and allow us to buy additional materials in the future. The way that CT funding works is you get credit based on your students from the previous year. You find out what your program money is the following November. Last year, I ran 2 sections of this course. It was 50 students. And this November, I found out that our CT funding for those 50 students was just over $29,000. So at this time, the high school principal, myself, curriculum director, and superintendent are recommending that the board approve the addition of this course to our course offering guide for next year. Is there any questions?
The prerequisite of, excuse me, students 16 years of age by the end of the course, is that because the license requires that?
Yeah, so the FAA won't let you sit an airman certification until you're 16.
Got it, that's what I figured. Thank you.
You mentioned students would be getting math credit, but then you also talked about the fact of the fine arts integration with this, with STEAM. Is there any potential for students to be able to get additional credit or other credit? So if a student doesn't need additional math credits, that they could get a fine art credit or something else based on the STEAM component to this in the future?
Well, that's an excellent question, especially once we get our CT accreditation. There's definitely some different credit options.
And based on, I mean, you talked about the startup costs, but are there any costs at all to students in the class?
So if they want to take their FAA Part 107 exam and we're not paying for it, it's a $175 test. Now, the one nice thing about that, once you pay for, take, and pass your exam, you never have to pay for that exam again. So every 2 years after you get your Part 107 certification, you have to do like a recurrent training. The FAA does that online, it's free.
And Adam, would the startup cost be coming from general fund if we approve that?
So there's a couple grant options that I can assist with that, well, depending on if we get the grant or not, might help subsidize that. But some of the funding would come from general fund, I think regardless. That said, when you look at the cost of startup costs for other courses or other curricula that the board has adopted over the years, this is not unreasonable
Right.
for a course of this nature. And obviously, if we're going to continue to invest in STEAM education, with that comes some upfront expense. So.
Sure. You talked about the articulated credit with NMC. Are there other universities that credit could be transferred into as well in regard to other programs or other institutions that would accept that credit?
That particular credit would just be good at NMC if
Okay.
the students wanted to continue with their drone education.
Okay.
Are there any engineering aspects of this, the building or repairing the drones?
So as of now, we haven't done a lot of building and maintenance other than like just general maintenance, but it's something that we could look at building into the program in the future. I know I've had some students express some interest in drone racing. One component of that is you have to build your drone for drone racing from components up so that you can rebuild them. There's also a drone soccer league that's out that I've seen that's interesting too. They run it in a gym. They've got drop-down nets. Might be an interesting way to involve students in building.
Very cool.
Drone soccer.
And obviously, these drones are an investment. Students, will they be allowed to take them off school property, like take them home to do assignments, or will they strictly be housed and stored on district property?
I can tell you what I do in my current program.
Thank you. Yes.
So currently, students can only operate the large drones at school under supervision until they earn their Part 107 license. So I've got 2 students that have come back that earned their Part 107 license last year, and they're currently in the course again, and they're acting as flight instructors with new students, and then they're building out their portfolios. So those students are welcome to check out our equipment. They're already certified and go out and they run jobs.
Do you have any indication of student interest? I imagine it would be high, but has there been a formal survey, questionnaire, anything?
We have not offered any survey at this point. Our backup plan, if we do not have the student interest to run this the first year, would be to start it as a club with the intention of running it as a course the following year.
Part of the reason for the timing was to get this into the course offerings guide for the high school so that students have the option to select from it for next year.
So I see, like the startup costs, the reoccurring costs could be funded. What are the costs for repairs or if one of these drones breaks? Is that built into the possible CTE funds, or what does that look like?
Right, so built into that first year, there's coverage on each of the drone bodies for accidental damage and repair, up to 2 times for 1 year. After that, we would be looking for CTE funding to pay for any repairs. They're typically pretty hardy. We've got lots of flight hours on the ones I'm operating right now. We've only ever had to have 1 repaired. I've got a personal drone that I've been operating for 6.5 years, and it's never needed anything more than like new props. So for the most part, it's just making sure you take care of your batteries, replace batteries, buy propellers for them.
Any other questions? All right, are we ready to move this to January 4th? Is that our next meeting? Is that gonna give enough time to
It's the
get it
8th, I
into
believe.
the?
January 8th. The 8th.
Is that gonna get enough time to get it into the course packet? Yes, okay. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, if I could,
Absolutely.
I'd just like to thank Kyle, Mr. Sprague, for the amount of time you put into this. I know he's spent a lot of time in the presentation, working with Dr. Cook, Dr. Delp, and I stumbled upon them well after school one day a couple weeks ago when I was coming by to watch robotics practice, and they were in there meeting with the science department. And so for a member of our, soon-to-be member of our faculty who is not actually even on payroll yet, put that much time into something, I think is a great exemplar of the Williamston way, and folks that go above and beyond because they care and they're passionate about something. So Mr. Sprague is going to fit in well. So thank you for all your work on this.
I guess I do have another, I have another question before we move on. So, will you be working here when, so I've envisioned this is gonna be in the course catalog.
For next
and
year.
Kids, right, but if kids don't, if it gets buried in a course catalog and they don't know about it and don't hear about it, so is there, what's the word? I don't even think of a word, like,
Plan.
yeah, like, I
So-
mean, like, hey,
I
take this
start on the
class.
22nd.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Provided we have some good weather days, I'll be doing some outdoor flying after school. Hope to drive up some student
And
interest.
kind of talk about, like, because you start in the second semester,
January
correct,
22nd,
in
yeah.
January, so,
So,
what,
like Dr. Spina said, that's the purpose of the presentation now, so that the board would potentially have time to move it to the January meeting. We put our course book together mid-January. We will start meeting with students the first week in February to start registering for next year. So the current juniors, we would meet with the first week in February and then subsequently every week after then. So we've met with the current 8th graders early March. It is going to be a tight window. It's something we went back and forth on. Do we propose this class now? Do we wait a year? Because Kyle will have only been in the building for a couple of weeks when the counselors meet with the juniors. So not a lot of time to build interest, and sometimes students are hesitant if they don't know who the teacher is going to be or the advisor, that sort of thing. So we went back and forth. Do we do it this year? Do we wait till next year? And we figured, why not give it a shot? If the board does approve it, simply based on name alone, regardless of who's teaching the course, might be enough to draw student interest. But like any class, student demand will determine if it's going to run or not next year. If it does not, then we would potentially offer it as a club for 1 year, and then try and run it again for the 25-26 school year. Based on his experiences with the course for 2 years at his current school, I would anticipate that it would definitely be running at that point. But to be honest, I personally would be surprised if it's not running next fall.
well, I mean, the word drone, well,
Yeah.
even not even drone, unmanned aerial space would like lock me in. So I would be surprised, like any kid would not want to jump on that.
So we have talked about promoting it. We do need to be careful. We don't want to single out certain courses.
Correct.
So there is going to be some conversation about how to do that with a brand-new faculty member in the building for just a couple of weeks before registration, but these are all topics of conversation we're currently having.
Yeah,
I mean, I love I'm the type of person that when you have an idea, you just need to jump in and fix it along the way. I know not everybody likes that strategy, so I would say let's try it first, but it did give me pause because you don't work here yet technically, so.
Again, we talked about waiting till next year, but we figured,
Why not?
why not try?
I love the idea to try. Give
So
more
Nancy's
opportunity.
question was if we'll be ready for the course count. My question is are you able to get the materials in time if it's a go?
Yes, so this
Yes.
wouldn't start till next fall.
Right.
That's more
So-
than enough time to acquire it.
I know that drones are like the new interesting shiny toy object, but so you are able to get all these things in time. Yeah, awesome.
Any other questions? All right, thank you both very, very much.
Thank you.
We'll move this to our January meeting.
Fantastic.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. All right, cyber security enhancements. Welcome back, James. No boot.
No
How's
boot.
the-
Yeah, quite the upgrade. 2 legs. Awesome.
Working, moving, great.
They're awesome, yeah. So I'm here this evening to talk to everybody here about cybersecurity. So currently, I'm going to recommend that we look into and propose that we acquire some new software and services that we haven't had in the past. And those services are quite expensive. However, the benefit of having them is considerable. So the first item that I'd like to talk about is the managed detection and response solution, essentially, that I would like for us to acquire. So those unfamiliar with that entails is essentially a service that we can pay for from a company to have a dedicated team of cybersecurity professionals monitor all of our cybersecurity systems 24/7, 365. So in the odd hour of the day, if we have some sort of cybersecurity incident, somebody gets into our systems, somebody is there and ready to act. So it's an entire team that's ready to go every hour of the day. The second piece that I'd like to recommend is the purchase of endpoint detection and response software. Essentially what this is it's antivirus 2.0. So many offerings, if you look into them, include a machine learning software that is able to look at what is going on a computer and decide whether or not it's malicious, and then take action according to policy that you set. The software also provides in-depth reporting information on exactly what's happening on a computer, such as who's using it, what tasks did what files might have been modified, that sort of thing. So you would get the added benefit of having software that's able to immediately react to anything that's going on in real time, and also have very in-depth information as to what's going on every computer that has the software installed. And we would have that information at our fingertips to deal with anything that happens, if it does happen. Hopefully it doesn't, but the reality is that it's always possible, and I'd like to be prepared. As far as dollar amounts go, again, it is fairly expensive. The managed detection and response software typically goes, it's according to how many devices you have in your fleet, how many users, that sort of thing, how many servers. So we'd be looking at a not to exceed amount of $40,000 a year. And I've put in there that we would like for that rate to not exceed 5% growth per year. And the EDR software, currently we're looking at a upper limit of $15,000 a year, and also not to grow more than 5% each year.
So would this be something on our, like all of our computers and our Chromebooks throughout the district?
So it depends on what we go with. So for EDR and MDR, not all offerings are the same. Right now, it seems like Chromebooks don't necessarily need software to monitor them as much as Windows devices do. However, it just depends on what specific solution we end up going with, which is a perfect segue into another thing that I went to cover was that Ingham is actually going through a competitive bidding process right now that local districts can opt into to essentially join the consortium and acquire whatever solution ends up winning that bidding process through Ingham. So this, if we approve this, this would enable us to actually join them as a broader consortium to acquire the software and services at a better rate, because if we go in with scale, we should save.
So theoretically, I guess, if I was sitting at my computer and I'm typing something that's against board policy, it would alert you, like Nancy Deal on room 22, or something?
Yeah.
That's the idea of this?
Right, so it depends on essentially indicators of compromise is what it's called. So if somebody is on a computer and they're trying to do something that a normal end user wouldn't do, right? They're not looking at their email, they're not looking at documents. They're actively trying to scan the network to see what's on the network, see what's vulnerable, see what's not patched, what they can talk to, what they can't talk to, that sort of thing. There's other ways to pick up on suspicious activity, trying to run usually admin restricted tools like command prompt, PowerShell, that sort of thing. But it's more sophisticated than that, and it's basically they've trained machine learning algorithms to piece together what's normal behavior, what's not normal behavior, and then you can sort of set for most of them, set what the program does in the event that it detects suspicious activity. So it's pretty much standard to disconnect the device from the network, try to remove whatever sort of, if it's a malicious software that's been installed, that sort of thing. However, you can fine-tune it to fit your environment.
One of the questions I did ask Sarah was whether or not this could be paid for through seeking funds, and she's going to look into that.
Would these detect attempts to use a proxy or VPN?
So you're saying like a proxy or VPN on a
Within
on-prem
our network?
device?
Yeah.
So that traffic is encrypted. So if it's on a device that has the EDR software installed, it should be able to detect unusual behavior. Depends on what you go with, again, the specific product. However, I would believe that it would do that.
Okay.
It would have a harder time intercepting it on a device that the EDR software isn't installed on, like at a distance, because that just is going to use HTTP protocol. Probably it'll be encrypted, so it'd be hard to pick up on that. But if it goes to, like, for instance, an IP range that's maybe in Russia and it's like a known threat actor, I'm sure it could act on that information at the network level and shut it down. But that's more in the realm of MDR, not EDR, which is where you get that piece of looking at the network as a whole more so, and not like the specific endpoint. So.
And would the MDR be able to, I guess, complement the EDR and make suggestions on policy?
Very much so, yeah. So it's a force multiplier. So the MDR solution, it works very well with the EDR solution in that the MDR solution needs information to act upon, right? So you need information about stuff that's going on, and EDR software gives that information, provides it at a very granular detail. It's incredible. I've sat in on demonstrations of several offerings, the top offerings, And it's crazy to me the level of detail that you can see about what's going on a computer in real time, and also in the past. It keeps it historically as well. So having that information available does greatly increase the effectiveness of a potential MDR solution.
In the MDR, that would be able to look at anything that's on the network, not just
Again, depending on what you go with.
software installed on, right?
Potentially. It depends on what you go with. So, one of the difficult things about this, the other directors in Ingham, we meet every month, and this has been a topic we've been talking over ever since the Jackson ISD ransomware incident. And just because a company has a product that they label as MDR, it does sometimes offer things that others don't. And so it kind of becomes this apples to oranges comparison type situation where, but there are solutions that do that.
Got it.
So,
And
What
then
is
as,
it? Oh, sorry. Go
no,
ahead.
as far as like remediation goes, you mentioned the Chromebooks likely wouldn't need that. I imagine you could just blow those off and restart, but I'm guessing anything with local storage would have to have this installed.
right, so I think that it does make sense to put the EDR software on a device that has local storage that's vulnerable, since ransomware is very prevalent these days, and if the files are stored only in local storage, you have the potential for them to get locked and lost or held ransom. So Chromebooks, they're cloud native, and so all that data that you're working on a Chromebook, even if the Chromebook were to get encrypted, it would be fine because the data lives on Google's servers. So I think that it would be, without saying for sure exactly what we're doing, it would make sense to do that.
And one last question, for the devices with local storage, do we have that paired with an off-site backup currently?
Oh yes, we have several backups, I believe 3. And and that's through our ISD. We pay the ISD for data center services, so can't say specifically what the methodology is without giving away sensitive information.
Understood.
But for the most part, I'm feeling good about our backups, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Welcome.
And this is Dave's wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So
I was
is
gonna
it
say, I understood
unreasonable?
Anything else?
I understood about half of what you were talking about, but
I know.
one of the things we've been advised of is, and I know this is difficult with this amount of money, but to try to be rather generic in terms of some of what it can do, or some of the specifics, even the vendors. So it is placing a bit of trust in James to make a good choice based on the competitive bidding process, but we also want to kind of shy away from putting out too much information on this. It's kind of a less is more approach from a security standpoint.
Is it unreasonable to think that the ISD wouldn't have something to cover the schools? So each school has to get their own security enhancement? Is that what you're saying?
Right, so I worded this in a way that if for whatever reason negotiations fell apart at Ingham, we could still move forward independently of Ingham. The nice thing is that for MDR specifically, it's sort of a way to supplement your existing IT department in a way that increases cybersecurity. So perhaps instead of hiring specific IT staff that are experts in security and having them do that, you could pay for MDR services, and essentially you get a team of people that are ready to act if something does happen 24 hours a day, which you really can't get that from one person. And then also, with EDR software, that stuff can act in real time instantaneously and shut things down. And there's no person on planet Earth that can monitor several hundreds, if not thousands, of devices simultaneously and take action in mere seconds. So it is a hefty price. You're looking at probably like an annual salary, but this does much more than what one person could do. So
I also we do, for some board members who are, we have entered in, the ISD takes a look at the county, I guess, all the districts, and if there's a need, then they kind of try to do consortium so we get a lower price. So they've done it with busing, they've done it with different things, and you can opt in or you can opt out, doesn't matter. But they would not pay for all of us to, that would be nice, but they're not, they actually would pick up the tab and then bill us. So they're not gonna.
Correct, and that's consistent
up
with
the
the
tab.
other IT services we
Yeah.
get through Ingham ISD. We actually have a annual agreement that we renew each year, saying that we're paying them for data center services, network engineering services, that sort of thing. So each year we go to the board to ask to fund a cooperative arrangement with Ingham, essentially. So even though we cooperate with them, we do get billed for those services. It's just at a discounted rate.
Any other questions for James? All right, we will move this for action in January. If you do have any other questions, please make sure you get a hold of James or Adam.
But mostly James.
But, well, I didn't understand anything that they were talking about, so if you got half of it, I think you could probably do well. But thank you very much. This is, we have had some of our stuff held hostage for a while, as you know, and this is a security thing, so we do need to take it seriously. So I appreciate all the time you put into this, and again, if anybody has questions, make sure you get those answered before January.
Of course.
January meeting.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Okay, next, mid-year hires. We have some memos. Adam, is there anything you want to add to these?
Well, these are recommendations for continued
Right. They're
probation.
mid-year, they're considered mid-year, our mid-year hire.
Mid-year hires.
Oh, they are mid-year hires, okay. From the past.
No, I concur with the recommendations of our building leaders and support the continuation of this excellent group of educators.
Does anybody have any questions? I think the memos are very nicely written. That is something, relatively new, that wasn't done in the past, so I do appreciate getting highlights of these individuals. All right, we will move these to January meeting, correct? Sorry, I'm still writing. Okay, next on the agenda, high school Model UN trip. Yes, do you have any?
Yeah, so I know the board prefers to get these all at the beginning of the year. In this instance, the advisors were kind of hedging their bets on whether or not there'd be interest and whether or not this would be a realistic offering for this year, and so had postponed submitting it until they had more information and were able to validate interest. So that's why it's a couple months behind some of the other requests. Otherwise, I think the memo outlines the rationale. The board has already approved several other trips for Model UN this year. In fact, they were just this past weekend at the meeting. So.
Seeing that this is so soon, do we know if this group has already been fundraising then to go?
My understanding is it's a continuation of kind of their
that is-
overall fundraising plan to support Model UN trips throughout the year.
Okay. I may have dismissed it. Thank you.
So it says number of students attending, 13. Do they have 13 students that have signed up? Or I'm assuming they have 13 students ready to go?
Yeah, my understanding is they've been able to solidify student interest, and that's the number that has committed to attend at this point.
Do we have any questions? Does this take, I know it says on here that it is, that it's with Georgetown University, so is the conference hosted on Georgetown?
I don't know that. I can ask.
I'm just curious. Georgetown is a great university. I could see some students coming back and being like, that's where I'm gonna go. Any other questions on this? It's a great experience, so we will move that for the January meeting. Okay, purchase of Troon Policy Service. I don't know which one of you want to take this.
Start, Adam can have context.
All right.
So as we mentioned during the policy meeting last week, we discussed adopting Troon's, policy manual. You'll have a packet in your board packet with additional details, but essentially as or if we were to adopt these, we would get any updates to policies as they come out. They would all be legally vetted. And as policies get more complex and as the law changes, it seems like it's probably a pretty good idea to lean into their expertise rather than trying to research this all on our own. We can continue to use policies that we like. We can adopt policies that they have. We can make modifications to them. This would simply give us a pretty robust library to choose from as far as all the policies we would need.
Just to add on to that, also there are other surrounding districts that have also gone to Troon. And as you know, or some of you might not actually, Neola has a bit of a popular one that some districts go towards. Similar concept, except they are quite a bit more of an investment into their catalog. And we have used Troon specifically for a few policies that have come across the board in the last few meetings that the correspondence back and forth, because it needed legal support and expertise, has cost the district a significant amount. And so to go off what Dave just said, their security, their expertise, validity behind what they have is why the policy committee is recommending that we go this route. And also a lot of the policies that still need to be updated also would require some legal support and resource. And Adam has expressed that he also feels more comfortable. Correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, and I don't want to speak for you, so if I'm saying something different, let me know. But he would also feel more comfortable having a legal expert take some of these on.
Can I ask a couple questions? So Adam, one question that I had, I mean, I see the startup costs and the recurring costs. How does this align? Because I know that we've had to go to Troon for assistance with the development of new policies. It would seem, looking at this, and what I'm guessing, the cost that Troon would charge us to help us in the future if we were to stay doing our own, that this would, in the end, be a better option for us than not.
Yeah, I mean, that's my understanding. I think too, if you look at it in its totality, I assume the policy work when I assumed this role, and the major reason for that was we didn't have any money. And so Neola was roughly $15,000 a year. So in lieu of subscribing to a policy service, by working through this in-house, we were saving $15,000 a year every year for the last 7 years. I think we've dug our way out of our financial predicament, and as Chris was mentioning, and when you look at kind of the return on investment from this, after the initial startup cost, you're looking at a maximum of $2,750 a year. Maximum, right? So if there's not a lot of policy updates that year, you pay less, but no more than $2,700 a year. The other piece is the $8,000 initial buy-in would be, we receive a $950 deduction from that for policies that we've recently purchased from them. So they agreed to take that off the $8,000. That was kind of negotiated ahead of time. So we're looking at a new cost of just over $7,000 to get in, and then a maximum of $2,750 every year after that. And I do think this will pay for itself. Well, if you look at the money we've saved over the last 7 years, it's already paid for itself probably into the next decade. But even after that, I think it's a really sound financial investment. And I think as the policy committee knows, keeping up on policies is hard. We were way behind the 8 ball. I mean, we were down about 300 policies that hadn't been updated since 1997. So not only did we have to keep up with everything that's changing, we had to go back and look at 300 old policies that hadn't been updated in 20 years. So it's a lot of work, and I think this will help accelerate not only our progress on that, but also do a better job of keeping us up to date as laws change and new policies need to be put into effect.
You just mentioned 7,000. Now, this is saying 8,000 for the policy manual, 4,500 for administrative guidelines, and 1,500 for the student employment handbook. So you're saying that in all, it would only be 7,000? Or are you saying 7,000 for the policy manual plus the additional costs?
So the recommendation at this point, subject to obviously the board looking at other things, would only be for the board policy manual and then the annual updates. So
Okay, not the administrative. Okay.
right. So, and we can always go back and, you know, purchase those later if we wanted to, but the manual, the upfront cost of the manual would be $950 deducted from that. That's already been negotiated. And at this point, we're only recommending the annual updates at that point. But again, you know, we can always go back and look at other items from the offering if need be.
Dave, one question for you. As you've looked at this from the policy committee standpoint, I know that it said that you can go to some virtual things to talk about the implementation, but this is a lot all at once. So have you looked into best practices in how districts are implementing when they bring something like this in and they move from policies that are homegrown and internal to completely switching over, and what we would have to do as a board to be able to put that into place?
We discussed it briefly, and I think the initial idea was adopt and replace as needed as we're going through that backlog. But looking at what other districts are doing is a really good idea. Dive into that.
So this is kind of, I'm gonna piggyback on that question, because I do know some districts, and it's my understanding we're not taking this Troon policy manual and getting rid of our policy manual and taking this on. And I think this is a good idea to use as a template. I will caution the policy committee to not just take one of their policies and putting it in. I have talked to several board presidents in our county about a certain policy that they had, and they just took Troon's policy. And then when push came to shove and said, okay, but do you get your policy said this? They were like, well, we would never do that. Like, we can't do that. But, okay, but that's what your policy said. So I would caution us not to just take them and swap, like take these policies and swap. I think the manual is a good idea. I know over the last year, there's been a lot of, well, we have this policy, but we need Troon to review it to make sure what we're doing is legal. This way, we don't necessarily have to do that piece. I'm sure we will have to in some places here and there, but it gives us kind of more of a starting point with some of the ones that we're looking at that are more technical legal.
And are we allowed then to take something that they've written and adapt it to what works within our own district? Or do we have to take their language as given?
So you are allowed to do whatever you want with the policy as the governance body for the district. They will recommend that if you change the language within their policy, that it might no longer be legally valid or in keeping with their interpretation of the law. That'll be a decision that the board will have to make as we move through these. But I want to reiterate that nothing will change as far as process, right? It's just that you're starting from a couple steps ahead with having already screened and approved policy recommendations by a team of attorneys, but everything else is the same, right? We'll prioritize the policies that we need to look at. Those agendas will be proposed to the chair of the committee. The chair of the committee will approve the agenda, it'll go to the committee will decide if they want those, if they don't want them, if they're going to make changes, and of course it'll come to the full board for both discussion and a vote. So that process is the same, it's just moving us ahead a bit and allowing us to accelerate the policy review and implementation process.
And there certainly are some policies that are only like Williamston policies where we wouldn't need that support. Case in point, the facilities use policy. Like, that's not going to be a policy that Troon is going to come up with. That's going to be something that we as a committee and we as a board would approve. And also, to go back to your financial questions, Chris, it was even discussed that if there was any board funds left over or not being used, that maybe we could look at taking some of those funds, because we have a board budget every year, that we could look at taking some of those funds to pay
we still have a half a year to get through, and I'm
No.
not sure how much we have left.
Yeah. No, and that
Okay.
would depend, I mean, that varies every year, so we
Right.
can't commit to that every year. obviously.
Sometimes we have a lot left, and
Exactly,
sometimes it's
yep.
like,
It was just
we're
discussed
far.
that maybe we could consider
We could.
looking at it.
I think this is a good idea. You know, we have to use Troon for a lot of different legal things, and, we know, and, you know, I joke that it probably would be cheaper for us just to get our own lawyer and have them on staff, but I am serious about that. I think it might be cheaper sometimes. So, what we have to pay them just to look at something is a lot, and this would help out. The one question I do have that I would like to know is what is, like it says, you know, you're paying $2,700 or whatever it is for a year. What is their year? Is it a school year? Is it a calendar year? Because if it's a school year, can we get like a,
Prorate.
yeah, like, can we get something for the rest of this year or something? But I had
Okay,
already
I'll
tried
check on
talking
that.
about that. Any other questions on this? Okay, again, I'm gonna move this to the January meeting, but please get your questions answered by Dave or Adam before January. Now we have a bunch of policies, so I'm gonna turn it over to Dave, and I'm sure Adam and
Yeah.
Sarah will drop in. There's a
Hoping
bunch.
Adam supplements here. So as mentioned, we have a number of 5,000 level policies that we are revising, adding, removing. These are the ones Adam mentioned that we received from Troon that are going to address the changing laws that are going to be going into effect in February and then July. So the goal here was, rather than delay and review in committee, we wanted to bring these to the board to give everybody the chance to review them as a whole, so that we can talk these through prior to the end of January and get them on the books. So I would advise each of you to read through these thoroughly. Adam has gone through and matched up all the new Troon policies with our current policy numbers, so they're a little easier to get through. No small task, I'm sure.
So any of the policies that do not have red in them are brand new and have not been in our, and have no changes per se,
So-
right?
No.
Because some of the ones in the packet are just, I mean, I don't see any color or anything that
Well,
shows
some
changes.
of them are, so
Yeah.
go ahead. The
So
para piece.
all the policies except 5830 are pretty much a complete rewrite.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The changes are so significant that we're just starting from basically starting over again. What I did do though, and where it gets confusing with the names of the original names of some of the policies, in some cases I had to convert them completely over or remove a policy that doesn't function anymore and replace it with one of these to kind of keep the numbering system that we have aligned. One of the tricks with the Troon policy is their manual comes as a set, and this would be part of it, obviously, right? So like their 1000 series might be different than our current 1000 series. So aligning to keep the way the structure of our board book or your board book as it's currently configured is a bit of a challenge. So in several cases, these are new policies that didn't exist at all, and so we had to create new policy numbers for them to fit, again, in the part of the manual that made sense with the surrounding content. So the language that's identified in red, with the exception of 5830, is where Troon, and again, you'll see this again, well, the whole board won't, but the policy committee will see it more frequently. Troon will provide areas where there's some discretion for the board to make a decision in some of those areas, and so the committee kind of afforded me some latitude there to go into those areas and put in recommendations in the spaces that they had, and so it indicated those in red in those rewrites.
And that red helps. I mean, because
Yes,
when
the
I was
red
going,
really
because
does
when I
help.
was going through it and just seeing all black, I'm like, is this brand new
The whole,
or
yeah,
not? So
the whole thing
that's
is
why I
new,
didn't-
so,
okay,
but
thank
I'm
you.
just, like, in some cases, it's very simple, like I'm cross-referencing back to other policies and other spots. There was a decision that needed to be made. I tried to stick with what was already current practice, or existed in current policy or procedure, whenever possible.
So in a lot, if this is, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding, a lot of these are part of that PARA law, which is the Public Employment Relations Act that was passed, I don't even know when it was passed.
Well,
Doesn't seem that long
she
ago.
just signed it into law 4 days before we met as our policy, and so
Right, but we need, these have to be in fact,
Yes, they
in
have,
effect by the end of January,
yeah,
correct?
Correct.
So
yes.
they're not giving school districts a lot of time to get this going, so that's why, I mean, we're
Yeah.
ahead of the ball, but a lot of them are.
Well, and Troon was still in the
Working on
process
theirs.
of working to get these to us, and that's why we got them literally an hour, half hour
Photo
before our
finish.
meeting last week, because it was just officially signed by the governor.
Well, they weren't even published on Thursday, we got them ahead. of schedule.
We did get
We got
a
the
sneak
special
peek.
Williamston for the
We
family
knew, I mean, there was
preview.
no,
Yeah.
we knew she was gonna do this, but,
Yeah,
so there is kind of a rush on getting this done, and we only have one meeting in January, so I appreciate Adam's due diligence with Troon to get this, so we could get this done, and I appreciate the policy committee's meeting and due diligence on this, because it really is a short turnaround, especially with a school calendar and.
yeah, and we brought this to the full board. As you can see, it was a rather large packet for us, and we said this needs to have the full board to look this over, and because it is a small window, we know that we need one meeting for discussion and one meeting for approval and, or action, I should say, so that's why it's coming to us tonight instead of the policy committee reviewing it again.
Yeah, again, if you have any questions, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in here about teacher placement, teacher retention, teacher callback, all of this. It might be helpful, make sure you read this thoroughly, and then maybe, you can reach out to Adam and ask, like, what did we do? What is different? Is this the same? To get a full understanding of what this all is. 'Cause it was a lot, but they did a good job, you guys did a good job. Anything else you wanna highlight on these?
I would just reiterate, 99.5% of this is just the law, this
Right,
just needs
we
to
don't
be
have
in place.
anything to
I mean, and some of the very small areas where there was some leeway and discretion, I pretty much just adopted what we either had in place and just put it in there, or went with their recommendation, like, for example, the amount of time for recall at 12 months. Their recommendation was 12 months, so we put in 12 months, and it was pretty simple. The harder part was just the alignment of getting these all formatted and connected into the policy book, so they make sense in their overall continuity, but not a lot of discretion, basically. This is what the law is, we need to have policies that align with that.
So again, though, it is about our teachers and teacher placement, employee evaluation, suspension, dismissal, like all of these titles. So it is law, so we don't have a chance. So, but I do think it's important that as board members, we understand or have some knowledge of what it is. So I do think it's a lot of reading, but when you're bored, like, I really suggest that you do your due diligence and go through it. Because it's important. I mean, we're gonna have community members ask, we might have teachers ask. I always, in some of these really specific details, always encourage all of you to make sure that to have them talk to Adam about that. But it is really important, I believe, that we have an understanding of what these are. Any other questions? Are we ready to move these for action? We need to move these for action, we don't have a choice. So again, if you've got questions, I'd get them to Adam, or Dave, or Sarah, or Julie. Then we moved on, I'm gonna finish writing this, I'm sorry. Okay, can I please have a motion for our consent calendar?
Move the Williamston Board of Education approve the minutes from the regular meeting held on November 6, 2023 as presented.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, first by Dave, second by Deb. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we do not have any roll call votes. We do have a couple of separate action items, so may I please have an action item for the Ferris?
Make a motion that the Williamston Board of Education remove the word pilot from the concurrent enrollment program and the current math classes be approved as an annual academic offering. Also, that the following Ferris State University courses be approved as concurrent classes beginning with the 2024-25 school year. HIST 121, U.S. History to 1877. HIST 122, U.S. History 1877 to present. HIST 211, World Civilizations to 1400. And HIST 212, World Civilizations since 1400.
Second.
Okay, so first by Chris, second by Sarah. Do we have any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. May I please have a motion for the purchase of our leased buses, our leased bus?
I move that the Williamston Board of Education approve the purchase of bus number 13, which is currently leased from Midwest Transit Equipment. The purchase price will not exceed $50,000.
Second.
So first by Doug, second by Dave. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And the next one, approval, may I have a motion to approve the superintendent's evaluation and contract?
I make a motion that the Williamston Board of Education approve the annual evaluation of Dr. Adam Spina and give him a ranking of highly effective. Also that the board approve its contract with Dr. Adam Spina.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Nice. I did hear Dave first. He was
Okay.
just a little louder, so I'm gonna say first to Sarah, second to Dave.
Okay.
Any discussion?
One thing that I will note, thank you all for getting in your rankings. With the new way that superintendents are going to be evaluated, I did speak with Mrs. Steele about this, that because Dr. Spina has had numerous years of highly effective, he will not have to be evaluated next year. But we will have some time to be able to adjust, because we will have to make some adjustments to the way in which we do evaluate Dr. Spina in the future based on the new rules of the state. So congratulations, Dr. Spina, that you will not have to be evaluated next year.
I was gonna say, we
I
have.
think I did 2 in 1 year, so I'm still,
Yeah.
still breaking even
Yeah,
there, but yeah,
Okay.
that is true.
But I just want to say thank you
Yes.
in that sense.
Okay, so we have a first by Sarah, second by Dave. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I think I should say congratulations to all of us. We get you for a little bit longer. The next part.
And I was just saying congratulations, that it doesn't have to get
I know,
evaluated.
I was
So,
thought you were gonna
not-
say congratulations.
No, no,
you're
no, no,
gonna-
no.
Oh, wait.
Because it's always nice when you don't have to be evaluated.
We
So.
do, absolutely. The next section are board goals. This is the, well, actually, we'll have one more meeting kind of under these goals, but our meeting in January to develop new board goals.
Yes.
We do not have any correspondence. Do we have any citizen comments? No. Any board members' reports or requests?
In regards to the meeting, the board goal meeting, is there any action that you want all of us to do to prepare for that prior to coming to that meeting?
I have not had a conversation with Deb to kind of, sometimes she'll do a survey, sometimes she won't, sometimes she kind of just leads us, so I am going to provide dinner, we'll provide dinner. What time is that supposed to start?
I assume it's at 6, let me verify.
So I'll try to have dinner here at 5:30. I know, was it last year or the year before, whenever we've done one of these things, we did Qdoba, and that was an hour late from when I was supposed to pick it up. So I'm trying to brainstorm other ideas, so if anybody has any other ideas. I would like to stay away from pizza, sorry.
Yeah.
I would like to, provide,
Please.
an actual
Well,
some type
and there
of
may
meal.
be dietary things, so you may want to just ask if there's dietary issues or things that you
Yeah,
need to
well, if
deal
you
with.
have an idea of somewhere to go, I was thinking about reaching out to Old Nation or one of the restaurants to see if they would put some type of menu together. or something. I'm just trying to do something. I thought Qdoba was good, but I can't, like, that was a crunch, and we were really late, so I don't wanna do that. So, if you have an idea, please let me know, or, yes, some dietary things, please let me know.
And the date of that is?
So 29th.
It's the
and
29th.
The meeting is at 6, regular time. You should have, hopefully, already have an invite. That's been
I think it
sent.
was already sent out. The invites were already sent. Well, back.
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
So stay tuned for dinner ideas and what time we will get here. The idea is always to have it here like at 5:30, but that didn't work out so well for me last time. I'm sorry, I had a thought and I lost it, and it was kind of important. I don't remember.
Well, I have a report.
Okay, good.
You can go ahead. ISOA is meeting this Wednesday at 8 a.m. and Brad Banasic from MASB, legal expert, will be the guest speaker for that. So you can attend virtually or in person. If you would like to, just let me know.
When? What was that again? Say that again.
Wednesday at 8 a.m.
If you want to attend that, could you make sure you let Sarah know?
Yes.
We can't have more than 3 people there. Brad Banasic.
Even virtually?
Yes.
Don't,
Yeah, a meeting is a meeting, whether
Oh,
it's in
okay.
person or virtually, yes.
Okay.
So,
I can't be there.
Brad is a really good, if you haven't listened to him, he is a really good speaker to hear, and he always has great information. So if that's something you're thinking about doing, please let Sarah know so we can make sure we don't have too many people there.
And if you can attend, but you have questions, legal
Yeah.
questions, just send them my way, and I can ask them on your behalf.
Okay. This is our last meeting in December. Our next meeting in January, which seems odd to me, but we are looking at new people and moving things around and what things are gonna look like. So I just wanna thank each and every one of you for all the work you've done this year and moving forward. Next year is going to be even a bigger year with the bond and the buildings and all of the things that we have to do. So I'd like to say that your workload is going to lessen up and be easier, but I don't think that's gonna be true. So take this time and have a great time and enjoy being with your families or whatever you're going to be doing. We appreciate it. And I also thank Dr. Spina for all of his work, and very excited that you agreed to stay on with us for a little bit longer. Go ahead.
All of you should have gotten an email. We are members of MASB, and December 15th is the deadline to submit any education credits. So if there's a whole list on the website about things that if you have done anything over the last year, you do have the ability to submit if you've been advocating or doing any of those activities. So look at the email and do submit if you have done any of those activities by the 15th.
And a lot of stuff going on over the next couple of weeks. Concerts and band concerts and choir concerts and Adam's acting debut and Elf and the Wizard thing and lots of stuff. So enjoy this time. Do anything else? Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Okay, I heard Chris and Sarah. So first by Chris, second by Sarah, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?